So, let's begin. Let's continue. Waking up in a cheap hotel in the city was by no means pleasant. I remember even during the long camping trips we had during grade school, I wanted to get home quickly, counting out the days left on my fingers. Waking up this morning, I was somehow reminded of that. Was it a need to be with my wife when she gave birth? A particular type of homesickness? As a productive member of society, as a public servant bound to fulfill his duties, it was pathetic indeed. Those negative emotions faded as I downed my breakfast, which was surprisingly not half bad. The meeting with the informant that Oishi had provided would be tonight. Until then, I couldn't just be lazing around. The Onigafuji Defense Alliance was protesting the dam constructions in various ways, including in this was a strategy for improving public relations, which could be categorized into two major forms, combative and peaceful. In regards to the former, as an attempt to keep law enforcement in check, they appealed to the public's sympathy by highlighting the oppressive and inhumane tactics of the police and the brutality of the riot squads. The later peaceful route stressed how precious the natural surroundings of Hinamizawa was, seeking people who would oppose the dam on environmental grounds. As part of that, the village of Hinamizawa had invited celebrated zoologists and botanists, as well as environmental groups, to advertise the nature surrounding the town. According to the news in recent years, there had been a group calling itself Hinamizawa Nature Watching setting up free sightseeing tours. I would have liked to have taken advantage of the opportunity, but when I called the village administrative offices, they responded that it was too late to put in an application for the tour, and they were still undecided as to when they'd be doing another one. I see. So there's no applications for next time. Too bad. Are you a member of the environmental group, or maybe someone from a magazine? No, just here privately. Privately? Then you're a tourist. Something like that. It's my hobby to take pictures that display how beautiful nature can be. I read in a magazine that there are some precious nature reserves here, so I was looking forward to it. I knew there was an article that had something like that written in it, but I hadn't actually read it. Was it this ad-lib lie not going to work? However, contrary to my expectations, the person I was speaking to left happily. Then come, the village is a little busy right now, but you're totally welcome here. In that case, I'll graciously accept the offer. Thank you. How are you getting around, car? If that's the case, could I ask you for your license plate number? No, there's no ulterior motive behind that. That was probably related to the checkpoints they'd set up on the way to the village. If I didn't give them my license plate number, I'd most likely be hindered in various ways. I thought about using the car I had bought from the prefecture, but I was lost on whether it was okay to tell them that plate number. If the Onigafuji Defense Alliance was behind this incident, there was no guarantee that they wouldn't be able to find out who I was. I had to play it safe, so I elected to refrain from using the car. No, actually, I'm not using a car. If there's a bus or something, I'd prefer that. We do have a bus, actually. The route is going to be discontinued soon, though. You can take that. It departs from Okinomiya Station. Thank you very much. I'll look out for it. When will you be going? Is it your first time in Hinamizawa? If it is, you must be unsure a lot of the things. If you let me know, I can have somebody show you around. Oh, no, I couldn't ask that much of you. Don't worry about it. That's just a bit of PR we do to protect nature around the village. Judging by what I saw at the checkpoint, the villagers were at the very least wary of outsiders. That's why in order to move in and out of the village freely, I had to travel with somebody like Oishi or side with the dam protests. Having an interest in the natural government surrounding the village tied to the peaceful type of PR that the village was using, I was a bit against having a watchdog attached to me, but that might actually work out in my favor. The entire village was fired up about the dam protests. I might actually be lucky enough to hear some especially candid opinions from the residents. Given that, there's no real reason for me to refuse their offer. Is it really all right? If so, that'd really help. After that, I was shown the bus schedule and directed to which bus I should get on. Somebody would come and meet me at the bus stop in the village. After showing me around a spot I'd take interest in, there's no doubt they'd bring me somewhere like the Anti-Dam Information Center. And over a cup of tea, they'd try and indoctrinate me into accepting their principles and beliefs. Well, if that was their aim, there'd be a lot of freebies involved. The world is about give and take, after all. I couldn't be going in a suit. I pulled some plain clothes out of my travel case and changed to something more casual. After that, after calming down by watching some local television, I left the hotel and set out for the Okinomiya station. The bus route that I was told would be discontinued certainly didn't look that way. There was more than enough trips on the schedule, and the number of passengers was by no means sparse. It was the main link to Okinomiya, the only town in the area. Types of passengers that stood out were older folks who didn't look like they could drive and housewives who didn't seem like they had their license. If the area was submerged at the bottom of the lake, it wouldn't matter if there was a bus route. That's why it was going to be discontinued. In the unnatural scheme of things, I could catch a glimpse of the government's intent of cutting off their means of transportation to bully the village into emptying out sooner. It makes sense. According to the documents, talks between the Ministry of Construction and the locals broke down quite early. The government decided from the start to take an aggressive stance on the matter. It was like a fairy tale with the north wind and the sun trying to get the traveler to remove his cloak. Even their bullying had meaning to it. The reason why the Onegafuji Defense Alliance resisted so violently was because the government was doing unseemly things like that. I was somebody who lived in Tokyo, so for a village or two out in the boonies like this to be submerged didn't seem like a big deal, but I guess for somebody actually living here, it would be vitally a huge problem. This route will be discontinued on XX of XX. Thank you for your patronage up to this point. We look forward to your continued patronage on other lines. XX Transportation. Gazing lazily at the notice of discontinued service posted inside the bus, I counted down the number of stops until the designated one. Along the way we passed through a checkpoint before without stopping. They knew what time the bus was coming, so they had opened up the barricade ahead of time. From here on out was enemy territory. My palms had at some point become coated in a thin film of sweat. Now arriving at Ukita Waterworks! Now arriving at Ukita Waterworks! Are there any passengers disembarking? I hurriedly pressed the stop request button as the designated stop was announced. For none of the numerous passengers to be getting off here meant that it might be quite a remote place. In actuality, the stop I got off at was so abnormally run down, I could tell it was barely used. As soon as I stepped out, an intense atmosphere, completely different than the interior of the bus, assailed my body. Right now, Oishi or Motodai weren't beside me. That's right. At the present, I was alone in the middle of enemy territory. My adversaries probably thought I was just an ordinary tourist, but that was nothing more than a ruse. But if by some mistake my true identity was to be exposed, it brought back the terrifying words I had heard at the prefectural office, that if somebody was attacked in Hinamizawa with a knife, there wouldn't be any evidence left behind. I didn't seem suspicious, did I? My clothing was currently casual. It was exactly the type of clothing that a city slicker that viewed this countryside as a wholesome getaway would wear. A camera and a knapsack. Inside were various things needed for hiking. It was still only June, and maybe it was unusual, but the sun was shining down like it was already in the middle of summer. The fact that I didn't bring a hat must seem odd. No, it wasn't something to be that concerned about. It's all right. I was just a normal tourist. Just normal. Was there anything suspicious about me? Asking that, I turned around to look at the bus that was departing. All the passengers by the window were staring at me silently. They were staring right at me, as if they had seen through my proud little outfit, just staring, looking down at me. Countless stares rained down like needles on me from the bus windows opened to air out the bus. All that rained down were stares. None of them were saying a word. But all the more, their silent stares told me more than a million words could. Hurry up and go back to Tokyo, you outsider. No, I'm... There was no reason for me to speak. My quiet voice was drowned out by the sound of the engine. The bus, as if to torment me, set out slowly. After doing more than enough to intimidate me, sped off. A thin film of sweat began to rise from my entire body. According to the documents, it was a village that seemed wary of outsiders. Its population was small as well. If they saw an unfamiliar face, they'd be quick to identify that face as an outsider. On top of that, nobody else had gotten off at this stop. It was the bus stop they'd normally just pass on by. Somebody actually getting off here. There was no doubt they had drawn some attention. But this wasn't a slip-up. They were the only ones who directed at me to get off at this stop. There was nothing to worry about. I knew I was just nervous, as this was just my first undercover assignment. My more seasoned colleagues referred to us as the new generation that didn't know how to lose their cool, but that wasn't true at all. In order to calm my breathing down, I exhaled the unpleasant air residing in the pit of my stomach. I couldn't help but pray my apprehensions would disappear like white clouds of exhaust expelled from the bus. There was a small shed there to serve as shelter if it rained. It was decided there I was going to wait. Inside the shell, one wall was plastered with posters advertising the dam and proposition report efforts. It was like heartfelt screams of the villagers recorded on the wall. Inside that shelter, I felt inexplicable pressure. It wasn't like I had any real relation to the dam project, but it made me feel hesitant about being inside there. That was just how it filled the force of the denial that space was. And inside that uneasy space was a girl. Inside the shed, covered in words written in broad brushstrokes berating the policies regarding the dam and calling for action, there was a girl, sitting there with a drowsy gaze, as if half asleep. Two images clashed so much I could only stand there dumbfounded for a moment, trapped in such a surreal environment. If I stepped inside, who knew what kind of oafish noises I would accidentally make? I couldn't be disturbing this girl's slumber like that. Having thought this, I gave up on entering the shed. It was just a sleeping kid, so why was I so worked up about it? I finally realized this girl, to us as a married couple, was the very image of our ideal child. Even after numerous examinations at the hospital, we didn't know for sure what our child's gender was. Whether we could tell if it was a boy or a girl was in the end dependent on whether or not we could get the image of their genitalia. There was of course no guarantee that it was a girl, but with things the way they were, the possibility was high. Even so, Yuki had been saying that the chances that it was a boy or a girl were even. But in my heart, I already decided that our coming child was a girl. Since the day I decided that until now, it was so fun to imagine how our child would grow up that I couldn't help myself. Amongst those numerous imagined forms, the one I thought to be the most ideal had materialized right in front of me. Of course, a little bit was due to the circumstances. In my ideal image, her hair would be on the short side. The girl in front of me, though, had long hair. It was almost as if somebody had taken my ideal and made some small adjustments. It certainly wasn't something unpleasant. Even so, I felt like I was souling her just by looking at her like that. She had an immaculate, no, a divine air about her. Guess who? And finally, I'm so excited! That girl with an angelic smile with a yawn wide enough you could see her molars woke up all of a sudden. I didn't mean to peep, but locking eyes with a girl who had just woken up like this somehow made me feel like I was playing a prank on her. I wasn't doing anything shady, but I became flustered. The girl spoke. No, cried out. Me? Me? Like a character on the show with the puppets? With the orange hair? I thought I was just one of those greetings kids do, so in order to prove I wasn't a suspicious person, I responded in kind. Me? 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 The girl stared at me dubiously with a doll-like expression, huge, but cold and hard to read. Well, I wouldn't be surprised. There was, after all, an unfamiliar man right in front of her. When she woke up, who responded with me when she said the same. Suspicious. She definitely thought I was suspicious. Me. We were both at a loss for words. No, the only one lost was me. The girl in front of me, as if inquiring about my motives, stared at me intently. In this silence, I felt like I was the one who had to say something first. Damn it, this girl was way better at interrogating somebody than Oishi. I'm not anybody suspicious. I'm... Nipa. What I could only have described as a cold expression suddenly blossomed into a smile, one that soon infected me. You might be familiar with the term angelic smile. To me, it was like that phrase was created just to describe the smile she gave me. The girl smiling was saying, Nipa, probably wanted me to return the favor in kind. That's right. This was this kid's form of communication. Having the other emulate what you did was just a rudimentary form of mutual understanding. Nipa! It was a beautiful afternoon in early summer. What was I doing? Nipa! Well, whatever. This was interesting in its own way. If making somebody happy with just a smile was the work of angels, then this girl was definitely one of them. I couldn't help but pray that my own child, who was soon to be born, would grow up to be like this girl. That strangely gentle moment was finally brought to an end by the arrival of a car. An older person waved at me from the driver's seat, a dry, plastered smile on their face. Hi there, good afternoon. Sorry for being late. You're the tourist who phoned yesterday, right? Yes. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm running around a little behind because of the farm. I'll run right in. Looks like the weather isn't going to hold up for much longer, so I'll show you around real quick. Huh? The weather? It changes fast around here. There'll probably be evening showers again today. If that happens, you won't be able to take any pictures. Come on, get in. Me. Turning around, the girl was standing right behind me with an intrigued expression. Her body language somehow reminded me of a stray cat that followed you after you played with it a little. So charming. Well, if it isn't Rika! Praise be, praise be!
Nipa!
A girl named Rika with an immaculate smile and an old man praising her while rubbing prayer beads in his hands. It was a rather mysterious sight to behold.
Are you going to work, Makino?
It's not exactly work per se. I was asked by the mayor to show around the young who came in the village for sightseeing.
A youngin who came to the village for sightseeing?
The girl, Rika, said that with a smile as she clung onto my arm. Well, yeah, I heard this village is surrounded by precious nature reserve, so I was very much wanting to record that with my camera. Even though I look like this, I really like to take pictures.
Tomitake MK the second.
Mark second. Oops. Sorry, I can't. I'm not good at abbreviations at all. I can't read them. Huh? Tomitake, huh?
Makino, is it okay if I come along too?
I couldn't. You could come along, Rika, but there's nothing interesting to see. You should go play near the shrine or something. A distinctively displeased expression creeped across Rika's face. Being able to show one's emotions honestly on their face was a privilege young children had. If it's not too much of a problem, could you bring this child along with us? When I said those helpful words, another smile spread across Rika's face with another nipa as she clung on to me again. Not bad at all. I want this girl to call me Papa. No. Father. Dad. Daddy. Ugh. What am I doing? Ever since I met this girl, I was completely off my game. Just calm down. Nothing I can do, I guess. Rika never listens, even if you say no. Come on, up on in. Come on, Rika, too. The old man descended from the driver's seat and opened up the sliding door on the van, which had Onikafuji Alliance Town Council stenciled on the side. Rika brushed aside me and dove into the seat and began bouncing around right away. It seemed like she was thoroughly enjoying the bouncy springs. Come on now, Rika. If you're like that, our guest can't sit down. Hey, Rika! Girls are nice. I wonder if my child will play around like this too. No. It was written in that guide to raising a child you shouldn't dote on them. Kids are kids if you don't raise them strictly without spoiling them.
It's soft and springy, Nipa.
Nipa. I'm definitely going to be a terrible father. It was decided that I would be a doting parent before my child was even born. Well then, sir, I'll show you around some places I think will look nice. Have you eaten lunch yet? Yeah, I had a light meal at the hotel. Is that so? Well then, let's get going.
We're setting up on a tour of Hinamizawa. Yay!
Is it okay if I call you Rika-chan?
Sure. My name is Rika Furude. I can already do additions in 10 digits.
Oh, is that true? That's amazing.
I don't count on my fingers. I can do it all in my head.
The way she insisted upon that was just too cute. At some point, the nervousness I had of being alone in enemy territory had evaporated like it was never there at all. I just had to be a little thankful that I met this girl. Well then, let's get going! It's time for Hinamizawa nature watching! The old man stopped on the gas with a great deal of gusto. Oops! I thought I was Akasaka! I'm so dumb! Ooh. Hey, turn that up. Idiot. Yes, finally! A character I know and care about a lot! I love Rika! She's like my second favorite character, or my favorite character. I can't decide between Rena and Rika, but sometimes I feel like I really relate to Rika a lot. Ugh. Let me drink. The old man, who was apparently named Makino. he was the same Makino that was listed as the auditor of the Onigafuji Defense Alliance? He showed me around places that were all breathtaking. Even though I wasn't really here for sightseeing, I couldn't help but be impressed. First of all, this is different from the simple scenery of the city. The scenery of a charming village like this, no matter how mundane it is seemed to the villagers, had a tranquil appeal to it. At first, I was only releasing the shutter as part of my tourist act, but midway through, I found myself taking pictures out of pure interest. Tourist traps had their own unique allure to them, but there was nothing like that here. I was especially captivated by the unspoiled nature of the place. If there wasn't that whole uproar over the dam, I would want to bring Yukie with me some other time. I wanted her to breathe in the fresh air, as well as show her the rejuvenating verdant scenery.
Is something like this that interesting? You're a strange person, Akasaka.
No, these cylindrical mailboxes are rare nowadays. They have a certain nostalgic air about them. You wouldn't happen to think they're elegant, would you?
Is Hinamizawa fun?
Yeah, it's fun. Once she's discharged from the hospital, I'd love to bring my wife here at least once, with a child that'd be born by that time. Right now she's in the hospital waiting to give birth. She's due any day now. It'd be nice if there were a cute girl like you. Sir, it seems like congratulations are soon to be in order. Still, that's not good. To leave your wife behind and play around a place like this. I was momentarily at a loss for words. It was exactly how Makino said. There was no good reason for a man who was waiting for his wife to give birth to be playing around idly in this place. Did I slip up? Well, we had already planned this trip to Hinamizawa a long time ago. My wife's family is with her, so it's alright. If you had this planned so far in advance, then how come you didn't make the sign-up deadline for the nature watching? If you did, you could have toured around on a nice bus instead of being cramped up in here. It didn't seem as if Makino was actually digging for anything, but if this conversation continued any longer, it put some unexpected holes in my cover. I halted the conversation by pretending to take another picture. Well then, for our last stop, I'll take you to the place with the best view. It was slightly before evening. The sun was still burning slightly, but a cool breeze had begun to mix itself into the air. It seems my exploration of Hinamizawa with Rika was just about to be done.
The place with the best view?
Well, Rika, where else would it be but the view from around the shrine? Hearing that, Rika smiled even more.
Well then, I'll introduce you to my home, Akasaka.
Huh? By Rika's home, you mean, huh?
The shrine! Furude Shrine.
Oops. There's an observation platform. I don't know if it was Rika. Sorry, my bad. The girl who called Furude Shrine her home. Rika. If I remember correctly, her full name was Rika Furude. And Furude, that was right, one of the three families. Even if the Sonozaki family is said to hold the actual power, it's still one of the old houses that held some authority. No, more importantly than that right now is Furude Shrine. If I remember correctly, Oishi had told me within the grounds of Furude Shrine there are offices of the Onigafuji Defense Alliance. And since the land around Furude Shrine was private property, the police couldn't set foot there heedlessly. Furude Shrine, where even Oishi couldn't simply set foot into. The main base of operations for the Onigafuji Defense Alliance. I had been given the unexpected opportunity to enter there. I couldn't have asked for more. I'm looking forward to it. Please, if you would. Well, then let's get there quick. The weather seems to be getting a little iffy. The sky had suddenly become overcast. It wouldn't be odd if it started raining soon. The cicadas, as if trying to push their daily allotment of chirps before the evening, cried out even more fervently. The van stopped in the shrine's parking lot. Also parked there were numerous other vans with loudspeakers mounted on top of them to act as makeshift propaganda vehicles. On each side of vehicle was scrawled the dam project must be demolished to defend our homeland to the last, no Oyashiro's anger, or a slogan of some similar kind. They gave the feeling that even without using the loudspeakers, there was enough to overwhelm any onlookers. Vertical banners were erected in various places. The contents of those banners were similar. They were all objections against the dam or crude insults toward the government. There were horizontal barriers, banners, placards, so on and so forth. They claimed that without a doubt that the headquarters of the Onigafuji Defense Alliance. For Rika, however, this hectic place was also her home.
We've arrived! I'm home!
Rika crawled over my lap and exited the vehicle first. Makino had noticed I was looking at the protest banners. The shrine was also the offices of the anti-dam movement. For you, this probably brings back memories of anti-security treaty conflicts back in the day. Student movements against government policies, movements that bordered on terrorist activity, were at one time commonplace, if only in order to garner global attention. Students holding out in lecture halls, brawling with the riot squads that charged in. It was an age where wasting one's youth like that was widely considered a road to glory. It was slightly before my time. I'm not really an activist or anything. I studied without incident and graduated without incident. I don't really agree with violence or occupations they use to protest the government's policies. Oh, you have quite a nice opinion there. If you have an opinion on policy, vote for the candidate who shares your view, or enter the political world yourself and assert your beliefs in a lawful manner. That's the foundation of democracy. I don't think that's something that you should challenge with violence. For a youngin', you have some fine beliefs. I saw that feeling of respect reflected in Makino's gaze. At the moment, something tugged at my sleeve.
I have no idea what Akasaka is saying.
Rika, feeling like she was the only one who didn't understand the conversation, had a look of displeasure on her face. That expression was so charming I had to keep myself from grinning like an idiot. It's often said that a father wants to spoil his daughter rotten. I think I understood that feeling very well. Sorry, it was a little bit hard for Rika to understand, wasn't it? Japan is a peaceful country, so you have to argue your point in a peaceful manner. You shouldn't resort to violence, in other words. No matter how much I explained, a girl who was just boasting about being able to carry digits over adding things probably wouldn't understand. It probably wasn't something to talk about in front of Rika anyway.
So then, Akasaka, how do you think we should keep our village from being flooded by the dam?
Even if I regretted my careless words, it was too late now. Here I was in the main headquarters of the organization telling them their way of doing things was illegal, preaching that violence was not the answer. A complicated feeling had mixed itself in the respect in Makino's gaze. It was then I finally realized it wasn't that simple. There wasn't a soul who could argue that what I was saying wasn't correct. Using violence to get one's way was something that everyone knew you shouldn't be proud of. However, right now, Hinamizawa was in a predicament that couldn't be overcome with peaceful means alone. The legality of the Hinamizawa Dam project, through the efforts of the various propaganda campaigns enacted by the Onigafushi Defense Alliance, was being called into question. If they further strengthened their campaign, they might be able to suspend or change the construction plans. But that was most just a possibility. If the government proceeded with the construction as planned, it wouldn't be long before this place was at the bottom of a lake. If it wasn't for the unrestrained resistance of the residents of Hinamizawa, this place might have already been underwater.
We can't live anywhere else other than there. We can't live in the city.
The words of this remarkably young girl were too accurate, carrying with them the screams of the hearts and minds of the residents of Hinamizawa. Of course, there was nothing I could say to respond to that. I could only respond to Makino and Rika's heavy words with silence. I'm sorry. This isn't a problem that an outsider should just lightly poke their nose into, is it? I apologize. Makino, unsure of how to reply for a while, could only laugh pointlessly. It's nothing that concerns guests that make their home elsewhere somewhere else. If you enjoy it here, please tell all your friends that Hinamizawa is a wonderful place, please. If word spreads to dozens, maybe hundreds of people, and that ridiculous plan to submerge this place with the bomb, the foot of the dam will eventually fall apart. He followed that with a smile that said, please don't think much of it. Makino letting me not worry that much was really a stroke of good fortune. Becoming infatuated with the idea of making friends with a little girl had made me completely forget my apprehension in being in enemy territory. Being reminded of this right before I was going to step foot into their headquarters might have been a good thing. If we had this exchange in the middle of their office, if there had been a short-tempered youth in there, they might have come at me. Thinking of how extreme they were, in the worst case, my life could have been in danger. It seemed that I looked quite despondent at that moment. Makino, thinking he said something wrong, became flustered, trying to think of a way to improve my mood. I was a bit careless just now. I'm very sorry. No, don't worry about that. The sights you showed me around the village were all beautiful, wonderful places. I really do want to come here one more time. If this beautiful village is going to be submerged at the bottom of the lake, I could understand why you would fight so desperately. I had somehow managed to use my despondent look to change the topic in my favor. After a bit, Makino had returned to his usual high spirits. It seemed believed I completely sympathized with his point of view. Now, let's leave that talk for now. There is a place with a really great view.
Let's go, Akasaka.
Rika, seemingly happy to be free from the boring and gloomy adult talk, bounded up to the stone steps. There was no need to run, but in order to catch up with her, I also darted up the steps. There were several tents belonging to the town council erected on the shrine grounds. Inside the tents were several folding tables, chairs, and a number of older town council members that were livening things up with chit-chat. They weren't saying anything incendiary like the dam project must be destroyed. It was just some relaxed, idle chit-chat between local geezers. The normal sort of calming scenery. At the entrance of the shed that looked like a meeting place, there was a large sign erected with Onigafushi Defense Alliance headquarters with bold brushstrokes. That was their base of operations. To be honest, it was a bit of a letdown. If you ask what I had been imagining, this is a bit embarrassing, but I thought it would have been something much more dramatic, with barbed wire fences and barricades. My first impression of the place, though, was completely different from that. It looked like a simple backwater town hall. It didn't look like anything other than that. The old folks were chatting had noticed Rika's presence. Well, if it isn't Rika, it's time for little kids to head on home.
This is my home.
The old folks guffawed since she wasn't wrong. From that exchange, I could tell that Rika Furude was loved by everybody. Makino, who's that? The tourist who phoned. Ah, that's right. This is the mayor of Hinamizawa, Mayor Kimiyoshi. He smiled brightly, but there was no mistaking he'd be scary if he got angry. By the looks of things, this old man was the president of the Onigafushi Defense Alliance, none other than Kichiro Kimiyoshi himself. Welcome to Hinamizawa. What do you think? It's quiet and relaxing, isn't it? I was able to appreciate a multitude of beautiful places throughout the whole day. I'm thankful for being granted this rare opportunity. Even though you're one of those youngins, you're quite the gentleman.
Kichiro, I want to show Akasaka a cool place.
Thinking the formalities between myself and the mayor had gone on for too long, Rika butted into the conversation. For her to call the mayor by his first name, I felt that it was a little strange, but none of the villagers seemed to mind. A girl of the Furude household, one of the 3 families. She was probably different than the average villager.
Akasaka, over here.
Rika tugged at my sleeve. Not resisting, I allowed myself to be pulled over, and waiting for me was a magnificent view. This is amazing. It was an observation deck that looked down the village. They, knowing this is the best view in the entire village, kept quiet as I stood there awestruck. I was holding a camera, but had completely forgotten to even glance through the viewfinder. This view, no matter what kind of film it was printed on, it wouldn't be able to show everything. If there was a way to explain it, it would only be what I'd be able to put into words. It was just a breathtakingly spectacular view that I struggled to find a comparison. For a while I was left awestruck. I could only stand there and wonder. A cool breeze helped abate the heat rushing through my body. That comfortable sensation also left me speechless. Rika, who had been holding onto my sleeve the entire time, spoke.
This is my favorite spot.
As she said that, she showed me another adorable smile. That smile seemed very fleeting. If you ask why, that was because the view from my favorite spot would eventually be submerged under the deep green waters of the dam reservoir. I just can't believe this village is going to end up at the bottom of a lake. I said it so quietly, only Rika could hear it. I regretted it as soon as I did, for those words were all too cruel. However, Rika didn't let them cast a cloud on her expression. In fact, she replied with a smile.
It won't sink. The dam project will definitely go away.
It was just like a little girl to say something like that. There was no basis of her saying so. It was just her wish.
Akasaka, do you think this village will be submerged?
It's not that I want it to be. I knew how important the dam was. I knew it was necessary. I just didn't want to recognize the sacrifices that would be made. I agreed with the project in general, but couldn't agree with some of the details. But if it meant this little girl's beloved scenery wouldn't be taken away from her, I might be able to object to the dam. I might be able to ignore the interests of the nation, the development of Japan, all for the sake of one girl's smile. I'm not really much of a humanist, but How sentimental of me.
It won't be submerged, because the dam project will soon go away.
Her words weren't just hopes and dreams, but were seasoned with a hint of resolve, as if she was talking about an unchangeably predetermined outcome. As surely as the sun rises in the east, it'll be gone soon. Wanting to ask her why she believed that, I turned around.
Yes, it'll be gone.
What makes you say that?
Well, you see...
She seemed to want to answer, but she was unable to find the right words. She swallowed back what she was about to say.
Regardless of what Akasaka does, the dam project will end this year. It's already been decided.
That was a lie. Something like that had already been decided. Then the Onikafuji Defense Alliance would have no reason to continue existing. From my point of view, it was like they were doing nothing more than throwing themselves into an endless battle. If they knew the dam project was cancelled, it'd feel much more relaxed around here. This village, though, could hardly be called relaxed. For evidence of that, I just had to remember how charged the atmosphere was at the checkpoint or the bus stop. The villagers, with their misplaced resolve, were still fighting. And this girl, even knowing the villagers' grim resolve, had already declared their victory. The villagers throwing themselves into this endless war, and this optimistic girl who had said they'd already won. That contrast was somehow strange. Why do you think that? If you know something that makes you that confident, could you tell me? Rika stayed silent for a while, seemingly choosing what to say.
Because...
Because? She looked like she was lost on whether she could continue or not, as if she was troubled on whether it was okay for her to say it, a kind of expression.
It's already been decided. There's no other way to say it.
It's already been decided, huh? It really is just like a little girl to say something like that. I couldn't believe it was actually true. She was the only one saying such things with such confidence. My real mission that I had forgotten about during this fun-filled day resurfaced at the back of my mind. The kidnapping of the minister's grandson. Had the Onikafuji Defense Alliance kidnapped the minister's grandson, had already succeeded in negotiating the cancellation of the dam project. Did Kimiyoshi actually already know that and was just playing dumb? Was that what this girl was really telling me?
Akasaka.
The girl called out my name suddenly. What is it? Go back to Tokyo. Huh? I wasn't only surprised at the sudden command. Ever since I came to this village, I had never once mentioned I was from Tokyo. Well, based on my accent, she might have been able to guess where I was from. What was I getting so worked up over? It was probably the sudden and complete change in her demeanor. You should definitely go back to Tokyo right away. If not, you will woefully regret it. The girl had been holding my sleeve the entire time. She'd been tugging at my sleeve since hurriedly dragging me over to show me this wonderful view. But this adorable Rika, who I'd spent the entire day with, there's no way she could have been replaced with a doppelganger when I wasn't looking. She had been holding onto my sleeve this entire time, but somehow this girl, she was someone other than Rika. She looked like Rika, but she wasn't. She was some girl I had never met before. That girl had told me in an indifferent voice that I would eventually regret coming to this village from the bottom of my heart. That would be an incredibly pathetic thing to see, so I thought I'd warn you right now. Why would I come to regret it? Stop whining. I couldn't believe that I was hearing such cold words come from Rika's mouth. I just couldn't believe it. Was somebody impersonating her using ventriloquism or something? Thinking that, I wanted to take a look around, but the girl's gaze had me pinned down, making me unable to move. When you tried crossing the road when the don't walk sign was up, did your parents finish explaining why it was dangerous before pulling you back to the sidewalk? They'd pull you back right away, wouldn't they? They'd pull you back before explaining why it was dangerous, wouldn't they? In other words, it's something like that. The girl I had spent time with, Furude Rika, would not speak like that. She'd speak with cuteness befitting her age, with brief childish remarks, expressing her emotions honestly. She was definitely wouldn't be speaking with such pointed words. I've warned you. Don't get the wrong idea. It's not like I'm saying this because I hate you. You don't need to tell somebody who's better off dead that they're in danger. Who are you? You're not Rika. As soon as I accused her of not being Rika, she let out a strange, quiet giggle. It was a laugh not befitting of a child her age. It was like she was possessed by something. Her change was a total and complete opposite. Was Rika being attacked by something terrifying and phenomenon? That cult idea came to mind without any sort of hesitation. Rika is acting strange. Somebody help! Thinking that I yelled that, I turned to where the mayor was. I immediately realized he was looking at us with a smile. That's right. To him, it looked nothing more like me and Rika fooling around. He didn't notice there was something terrible happening to her. Akasaka is such a coward. The girl had obviously grasped that I was afraid. Noticing that and calling me a coward, she laughed again. That cackling girl, approaching me in a strange manner while still laughing, lost her balance and fell flat on her face. Rika fell down. It was just a while. I would have extended a hand to help her without hesitation, but now, extending a hand to this ominous girl who looked like Rika but wasn't, required a bit more courage than I had in the moment.
Me?
This girl cried out thus, and she squirmed upright and dusted herself off. Afterwards, she looked around restlessly as a blank expression crept across her face. You've got to be kidding me. Was she making fun of me? That way of acting. It was as though, after being possessed by something, she lost memory of what happened. You're joking, right, Rika?
Me?
I don't know if Rika had heard me or not. She just cried out like that as if questioning herself. Hey, mister, Rika! Tea's ready! There's some snacks too, so please come and have some! An old lady was wearing a smock was energetically waving from the entrance of the office. Hearing that there were more snacks, Rika's expression changed.
Yay!
A carefree smile. It was a familiar smile, one that belonged to the embodiment of my ideal daughter. Any hint of the creepy girl that was just there spouting sinister words had vanished. Come on, Rika, wash your hands first. There aren't any manju for dirty hands.
I'll wash them real good. Me?
Rika responded with vigor, running off to the washing station that was along the side of the office. She stopped halfway, turning around to call me.
If Akasaka doesn't hurry up, I'll eat a share of manju too. They're steaming fresh.
Huh?
People who don't wash their hands aren't allowed to eat any manju.
No matter how you looked at it, that was Rika. Those words and the way she said them. No matter how you heard them, they were definitely Rika's. Come on now, mister. You're the adult here, so show her how it's done. The old lady urged me how to wash my hands. Without any resistance, I lined up beside Rika at the wash station. I stared at Rika, intent on washing her hands properly, like she'd probably learned at school.
Me? Did I do something wrong?
Huh? By wrong, you mean...
How I'm washing my hands. I only got 4 gold stickers for it. I'm probably bad at washing my hands.
You're not doing anything wrong if you're washing them that carefully. That's more than enough.
But it's not, Akasaka. If you don't use a brush and clean out the dirt underneath your fingernails, you won't get a gold sticker.
Rika, you're very diligent. That's something to be proud of.
Mipa, I was praised by Akasaka.
No matter how you looked at it, it was Rika. There was no trace of that girl from before. Exactly what was that sinister girl? Rika, what was the meaning of what happened just now? Just now you told me to go back to Tokyo, didn't you?
Did I say that?
I was at a loss for words. She didn't remember that girl just now had said. Like I would ever believe something as a cult that would happen. Like I would ever believe that Rika could be possessed by a strange girl and say those creepy things. Rika, you definitely said that.
Me?
Her expression told me that, despite my saying so, she had no idea. She wasn't playing dumb. She actually didn't know. Exactly what was that just now? Just as Rika had, I let a look of confusion creep across my face. The two of us, looking like we had no idea what was going on, must have certainly been a humorous sight to behold. While partaking of the tea and snacks, I was shown a propaganda film shot by the Defense Alliance that highlighted the resistance efforts. Older folks had talked passionately how long and grueling the fight against the dam was, but they fell on deaf ears. I was transfixed by Rika, who had heard these stories countless times before and was nodding off. Eventually, Rika noticed I was staring at her and smiled as she rubbed her eyes. That smile was Rika's. After all, there was no hint of that sinister shadow. After that, my unreasonable fear of Rika lessened with the passing of time, but I could no means forget what had happened. It eventually grew dark. The mayor had said that they had prepared dinner, but I said I would come again tomorrow and took my leave. I had to return to the hotel and follow my regular report with the section chief. I see. Well then, please come again tomorrow. If you phone somebody, we'll send somebody to pick you up right away. I appreciate your hospitality. I'll probably come back and enjoy myself tomorrow. Yes, please do. It seems that Rika's taking a pretty big liking to you.
Akasaka, are you coming again tomorrow? I finish after 5th period, so if you could come around 3 o'clock, that would make me happy.
Please come again. That pure smile urged me to do so. There wasn't a trace of that evil aura. Depending on what happened next, all that might end up as nothing other than my hallucination. Thinking about logically, if the daughter of the Furude household, one of the 3 families, had taken a liking to me, then this was a strong foothold for my investigation from here on out. It was like a free ticket for a reason to visit Hinamizawa. If only I could treat that little incident as a figment of my imagination. And having this girl who was the embodiment of my ideal daughter grow so attached to me wasn't bad either. I had successfully dove into the belly of the Onigafuji Defense Alliance and had the mayor as well as other important members of the alliance welcome me in open arms. This was actually a great turn of events. However, I still felt uneasy. Getting back to the hotel, I forced down an almost painfully cold beer until I could clear my mind. The shock from that incomprehensibly strange incident continued to torment me. He said I needed beer. I need a drink! I freaking love Yukari Tamura's portrayal of Rika. I don't know if I mean I just love it. Her voice is like the best to me. Let's read the tips. Alright, going smoothly. I don't know if I probably won't just like act it out or whatever. I'll probably just passively read. The sound of the car grew closer, followed by the sound of the braking as the engine cut out. At that moment, his, up until now, lackadaisical footsteps grew decisive as the man in the room dashed up to the wall beside the window and carefully peered outside. It was his comrade's car, even so he didn't relax his guard. Eventually, the sound of footsteps approached the door. Blah, 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 blah. It was the something. Come back, open the door already. You must be tired. I'm moving right now. After the locks had come undone, the door opened, and a man in his glade with swollen grocery bags. The bags in his hands had 7 Smart written on them, with bread and milk cartons being able to glimpse within. The contents of those bags were then spread out over the sheet on the floor. I brought some cup noodles. Go boil some water. What is the kid doing? He's been sleeping the entire time. Thank God he's not causing trouble. He did struggle a bit when he was about to blech. Ah, gross! Ew! I'm not reading that. Ew. Ew. Didn't I ask you to pick up another can of gas for the portable stove? We're out. Yeah, I never asked you, idiot. God, seriously, come on, work, damn it! He rattled the portable stove as he struggled to get it to light. Seeing that, the man who went to buy supplies let out a deep sigh, and with a backwards glance at the sight, began to walk to the corner of the room. The kidnapped boy was sprawled out on a sheet that had been spread out on the floor. Boy, you doing okay? Of course, the man didn't assume the kid was able to answer the question. That was because the boy's ears were plugged and his ears and eyes were thoroughly covered by packing tape. Also, his mouth was gagged with thin, twisted-up towel. Because of that, the boy was unable to close his mouth properly, his cheeks sticky with his own saliva. Ah, that's gross! Ew! Ugh! Of course, that wasn't the only reason. Both his arms were tied up tightly behind his back with a leather belt. You seem to be doing okay, at least. You're not gonna die. This would be sensory hell for me. If your grandpa wanted to play tough, we might have had a lop off an ear. It'd be great if we done have to. If the main family says we do, though, tough luck. I can't even imagine what kind of cruel things they have us do. The family says not one scratch on them, though, so it seems to be going well for the time being. The minister is discreetly withdrawing the dam project. The Hinamizawa Dam is definitely postponed. I wonder when we're letting the boy go. I just want to be done with this already. The May family seem to be gauging the time, and I don't know when I'll be able. Probably soon. Isn't that right, kid? You'll probably be let go real soon. The men didn't know if their voices were heard by the boy. For him, there was nothing he could do but continue to sleep to escape his harsh reality. More importantly, what are we gonna do about the gas? We can't eat cup noodles raw. If we're out of gas, say something. Jeez. Gross. Why I like rainy days? Okay, I have to interpret who's reading this. The weather forecast had predicted that it wouldn't rain at all this entire week. It's not that I hate sunny days or anything. When every day is the same, unchanging, sunny, cloudy weather, anybody who would long for a rain cloud or two, it's simply clear skies for a week, a month, or a year, anybody would long... Wait, hold on. I want to determine who is reading. Who's saying this? Hold on. Okay. I'm going to assume... I have to hope. I'm gonna assume I know who's reading this, okay? Let me read it again. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm right, I'm right. The weather forecast had predicted that it wouldn't rain at all this entire week. It's not that I hate sunny days or anything. When every day is the same, unchanging, sunny weather, however, anybody would long for a rain cloud or two. If it's simply clear skies for a week, a month, a year, anybody would long for a rain cloud or two. The weather specialists said that they had carefully scrutinized a large quantity of past data, so it wouldn't be likely for the forecast to be so wrong. I knew as much. But even then, there was occasionally a day where I was hoping that it would be wrong, as I stared up into the clear blue sky. Was I being mischievous in hoping so? I waited and waited, feeling almost suffocated by the boring blue sky, undisturbed by a single cloud. If you could die from that suffocating feeling, then the population of Earth probably wouldn't have increased to this point. In other words, the only one who was being suffocated by this was me. And so, I welcomed the summer evenings where not even the weather forecast could predict a sudden shower. If I were to explain it like this, would you understand a bit more about how I feel? Let's say that tonight's dinner was going to be curry rice, but when you were called down to the dinner table, what was waiting for you was instead an eggplant and bell pepper stir-fry. This was just on your mother's whim, by the way. I would be delighted by such whimsy. I don't really like eggplants or bell peppers, but still I would be delighted. The fact that the pre-established routine of curry rice had been broken would be amusing. If tonight was repeated 100 times, and 100 times you had to eat curry rice, yet for just this one night, that was changed to an eggplant and bell pepper stir-fry, there was no way you couldn't enjoy that chance happening. I hate pre-established routines. I really hate when all the things are decided beforehand. I have no love for boredom. I always get my hopes up that something today will be different from yesterday, no matter how trivial. It's been decided this entire week starting today was going to be clear skies. The weather forecast decided upon it, so the god of weather must be obliged to do so. But who's to say that the rain cloud might not just show up one day on a whim? It's something that nobody can say for sure, but because that thought remains in this world, a creature such as myself can continue living without being suffocated. Tomorrow will probably be a hot and clear day. However, I'm the only one that knows that predetermined fate, even with but a slim 1% chance, sometimes changes. Hoping for that 1%, I hung up upside-down weather charms of my sunlit eaves throws. In the end, I spend my days waiting for those unexpected things in life to happen. I pondered why I was hoping for it. Why was I hoping for a rain cloud? The answer was simple. I had my fill of clear skies. Then why was I hoping for a rain cloud? The answer was simple. The fact that it was going to be sunny tomorrow was boring. So why was I hoping for a rain cloud? In the end, it doesn't really matter whether it rains or shines tomorrow. Basically, it was just the rain would water my heart, which was withered from boredom. That's why I'd rather watch a TV drama where the plot's already been decided. I prefer to look up at the sky. I have an idea who's speaking. I don't know if anybody else knows. If you've read it, this is my best guess. I'm not spoiling it because I know their character is somebody who hates boredom. Not gonna say who it is, but I have an idea, and the voice that I chose was deliberate. So, yeah, barley and black tea, and a millstone. Why I like rainy days going smoothly. Okay. Your blood pressure is improved. For you to recover this quickly at your age, I'm rather impressed. At this rate, you'll be kicking after a couple hundred more years, Oreo. The old doctor in his medical coat had said that he undid the blood pressure cuff from the arm of the old woman tucked away in her futon. You're a very good physician, Dr. Irie. If a persistent old fart like me doesn't hurry up and die, I'll just be the way of you young folk. The old lady Oreo laughed faintly, with a broad smile on her face, then turned toward the sliding door as she called out in a strong voice. Is Shimiko or Tayako here? Bring some tea for Dr. Irie. Sound of rushed footsteps from the hallway drew closer, until finally the door smoothly slid open. What was revealed was a young girl. It looked like the old lady's granddaughter. Shimiko already left for the day. Do you need something? Mion, make some barley tea for Dr. Irie. Okay, got it. Did you want something too, Granny? Or would black tea be better? Want lots of milk and sugar? I'll measure it out myself, so you don't have to put any in. Just bring the sugar jar and some milk when you bring the tea. KK! The girl named Mion, after giving a rather uninterested response to her taskmaster of a grandmother, returned to the hallway. Pour the doctor's tea in the cups for the guests. And make sure you bring a coaster, too. Also make sure to dry the outside of the glass, okay? Yeah, you're such a fussy pants. A tired voice wafted a reply from down the hallway. The apathetic tone of voice was farther than usual. The old lady let out a wry smile slip from across her face as she chided the girl. Jeez, that girl just won't learn. Nothing I ever scold her about sticks. Now, Oreo, you don't have to say that. Mion's doing her best in her own way, even though she's so young. Her mother was the same way. Couldn't teach her anything. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So her mother's mother must be exactly the same, no? The old lady burst out laughing, her expression showing that she hadn't taken the comment the wrong way. Dr. Irie, I'm sorry, but could you open the doors for me? It seems there's a nice cool breeze outside. The cool chirping of the Higurashi at some point had started leaking through the gap in the doorway. Irie stood up and opened the door a bit. A refreshing breeze pushed out the stale air that had built up in the room. Ah, what an important line. It's gotten fairly hot during the day, but the evenings are still rather cool, aren't they? It was almost downright chilly last night. Yeah, those types of mornings and evenings are another one of Hinamizawa's fine points. Oops, that's the other way around. Oh well, Irie replied with a smile as he returned to sit in the cushion beside the old lady. The two of them, for a little while, soaked in the voices of the Higurashi. I'm going to try to live up to 100 until the business with the dam is properly finished. I ain't kicking the bucket just yet. To get to the government to withdraw a decision they'd already made is a fairly difficult thing to do. The way this country does things is like turning a millstone. A heavy one at that. A millstone? Don't you know? A millstone. Irie quickly affirmed that of course he knew what the old lady was talking about, for he knew full well that Oreo didn't like having her stories interrupted. The millstone, see, can grind anything to a pulp. It's rather impressive, but you see, it doesn't turn that easy because it's a rather heavy millstone. Lots of people have to work in unison to get it to even budge. It's that type of millstone. Irie pursed his lips, listening quietly to what she was saying. Eventually, Mion returned with some tea laid out on a tray. Seeing that Oreo was talking in a good mood, she quietly knelt down and laid out the sets for the barley and the black tea, careful not to interrupt. That's why when it gets going, it's not that easy to stop. It takes the most effort to move the right before it starts turning. Everybody hates that, so everybody keeps pushing along without rest. You're talking about friction, right? I get what you're saying. So in other words, if there's some sort of mistake in the... So in other words, if there's some sort of mistake and the millstone suddenly stops turning, to get it turning again takes a great deal of power, more or less. Oops, sorry, it was her. I was confused! Certainly, get a project that's suspended going again takes quite a lot of work. It's the millstone that isn't easily stopped, but once it's stopped, it'll never turn again. It's that kind of millstone. It'd be nice if there was some way to get that millstone to stop, wouldn't it? When Irie responded with that, Mew and the old lady suddenly sunk into silence. Irie, instinctively thinking he had said something rude, searched in a small panic for the words to correct himself, but the silence wasn't the result of rude words. For what crept across Mew and the old lady's faces were contemptuous smiles. The atmosphere surrounding Irie suddenly froze, leaving him flabbergasted, thinking the scornful smiles creeping across both their faces was the result of some mistake of his. He could only grow afraid. It hadn't been that long at all since he was enveloped by silence. However, unable to stand it, Irie could only let out a weak laugh. Irie's laugh eventually spread out to Mew and the old lady, not knowing exactly what they were laughing at. Their laughter left a lingering chill. The only ones not laughing were the Higurashi, who continued their simple and unchanging chorus. Alright, so, did I save it? Okay, we're gonna leave it right here. Hold on, give it a moment. We're gonna go in the menu, we're gonna quit the game. Alright. Thanks for everybody that showed up. I saw that a bunch of people were 3 people were watching last night, so yeah, thanks much. Yes, I saw some comments. That's cool. I can't always respond, but yeah. Nonetheless, I was excited. Okay, thank you. Goodbye.